kind of guide us through this process. The way this is a work session, formal work session, and it has no formal agenda. But what we're going to do is we're going to ask Ms. Julie Stanford to come up and kind of give a highlight, help educate our legislators about the process, kind of how we got there, and how the county is made up currently and presently. And then after that, Mike Cox is going to come up and just do a legal run, do a highlight on the 1964 voting right consent decree that we're under, along with several other counties in our area, that puts certain restrictions on us on how we can do certain things, and he'll put a legal spin on that. Then, as I mentioned before, I will allow some input. 2 speakers if we have time for, and 2 speakers again, 5 minutes apiece, and I will hold you to that. And then after that, we'll hear from our guest. So, on that note,
I get to go first. Okay.
My favorite topic. Jeff said, I'm Julie Stanburg. I'm the GIS coordinator for Pasquotank County, and so I'm the map person, but I'm also the number person. So to me, this is just a number game, you know, where we draw these lines and what our numbers look like. So I'm going to give you a little bit of the background, not too much. Up here is our 2000 census population, and then our 2010 census population. From between 2000 and 2010, we gained about 6,000 people, and in 2000, our black population was 40%, and now it's 37.76. I really don't have any explanation on that, but I just wanted to make sure everybody saw the same numbers here. So our current plan for our commissioners is we have 4 commissioners who are elected out of districts and 3 commissioners who are elected at large. This is what our districts look like. The northern outside goes much further up in the county, and the southern outside goes all the way down to the sound, but it makes a hard to see the inside. These inside districts basically follow the city corporate limits, not entirely. We found that with the new census, we had to include some of the areas that were outside of city limits, but again, our inside districts tend to follow city limits. So the northern outside district, which would be mostly out in the county to the north, is 28% black, 71% white. The northern inside is 36% black, 63% white. The southern inside, which is our minority district right now, is 66.53% black, 33% white. And the southern outside, which again is mostly a rural district, is 19% black and 80% white. And for you 3, you have a handout that has these numbers in it. So, what we've looked at with the 421 plan is to elect 4 commissioners from the 4 districts that we have now. So that would be exactly the same as it is now. But to take the at-large commissioners and have 2 of them be elected in the combined super districts and 1 remaining at large. And I'll show you about the super districts. So again, this is what our districts look like now, with the inside districts being close to the city limits. We would combine those 2 inside districts into 1 super district, and then whatever was outside that, our rural districts, would be the outside district. So that would force, where right now you could have of our 3 at-large commissioners, all 3 could be elected from inside that city limit, but this would effectively force 1 to be elected from the rural area, 1 to be elected from the city area, and then 1 at large overall. So that's what the super district would look like, the yellow area there. And then here are the numbers, and it may be easier to see on your sheet, but so our southern inside district would remain our high minority population with the 66.47% black voting age population. But that new inside super district would be 50.84% black voting age population. So just over the majority. And that seemed to be the most effective way to get a second minority district. And I think, so it's Mike's after this, so I probably went through that kind of quick, but there's really not much. Take the 4 districts that we have now, keep them as they are, and really the difference is creating these 2 super districts, which are the inside districts, which is basically the city, and the outside district, which is basically our rural area. So Mike, you want to talk about this?
If y'all have any questions?
Yeah, I'm sorry, do you have any questions for me about that?
Okay, thank you. My name is Mike Hopkins, the county attorney. Thank you, Julie. What I'm going to do is walk you through a little bit of the history of the 1980s litigation and basically bring you up to why the board is asking for help and Robert in implementing the 421 plan. Okay. In 1985, the Board of Commissioners agreed to the current structure, which Julie just went over, 4 districts, 3 at large. The General Assembly approved a local act approving the restructuring. Pursuant to the consent order, the board went from 5 to 7 members, 4-year terms. As we just said, there's 4 districts, 3 at large. Pursuant to the federal consent order, 1 district would have at least 55% minority voting age population. And that order is still in effect. So, Julie, next screen, please. Thank you. These are the ways to restructure the board. So there's 2 broad ways. Meet the statutory requirements, and we've got a note here, the 421 plan does not meet the statutory requirements, and hold a public referendum. And I want to tell you why it doesn't meet the statutory requirements. Because the super districts have more people, because basically your 4 districts are 10,000 people, and the super districts would have 20,000. And I want to thank Michael Kroll and Bob Joyce at the School of Government for helping me out with this. It's kind of a difficult area, and those gentlemen have been really good to work with. So after consulting with them, it's our opinion that it doesn't meet the statutory requirements. So then, this is why the board needs help. We need a local act, and there are a couple options there. It's a straight-up local act of the General Assembly. Then we've got another one there, local act with a public referendum attached. And that depends on how the request is made to our representatives, the senator, and how the local bill gets through the General Assembly. There is a federal consent order that needs to be amended. That would not involve our legislators. That's something we would have to do through the federal courts. And next one. And as everyone knows, Section 5 right now is basically kind of legless. It could come back, but until the U.S. Congress addresses Section 4 in that formula, we don't have to go to D.C. to ask for pre-clearance on the 421 plan. Okay. And this is where we're asking for help, and I've got 1 or 2 more slides after this. I think 1 more. In the past, it was our understanding controversial bills were not heard in short sessions. Obviously, with 2014 being a short session, the board's going to ask, how can we get this done? And I think the resolution is the next slide. Okay, I'm not going to read every word here, but basically any bill, local bill, must be accompanied by a certificate signed by the principal sponsor stating it's non-controversial, and that each member of the House of Representatives and Senate whose district includes the area to which the bill applies. So basically, we need our 2 representatives and our senator to be on board. You know, in the past, Representative Owens, we kind of knew a little bit about how he treated things. It was 7-0 if it was controversial or not controversial. So kind of like to hear from our representatives what is considered controversial, not controversial. And of course, you guys have rules in Raleigh you've got to go by as well. So that's my presentation quickly. I'm glad to answer any questions. And go from there. Thank you.
Any questions for our county attorney? Mr. Stewart was our committee chairman for the governance committee. did you want to add any?
I've got some comments to make. Three of us sitting here were asked to be members of the governance committee, appointed by our chair, and I was asked to be the chair of that, and still am as of this date. But the purpose of that committee was to implement, find out from interested citizens if we can implement a voting plan to allow for more demographic representation on the Pasquotank County Board. We had 4 community forums over like a 9-month period of time. 2 of them were held at African American churches. One was held at the Lutheran Lions Club. Some of the people in this room were present at that one and others. And then one was held at the Michigan Rotary Club. And we weren't exactly satisfied with the number of people that came, but we were pleased with the comments that people made. And I want to just mention a couple. Yes, we need to do this. Why are you doing this? It's about time. Like it the way it is. Need better representation of the board to solve community problems. Some former chairs said to me, we don't need to set up a district that will favor one person over another. Another former chair said, why didn't you have a forum at a white church? And another chair said, my wife and I voted for you. Why are you doing this? But at any rate, I'm not going to go into too much detail. I would like our 2 representatives to have one of these right here, if you would, for information purposes. And I just want to as you think about this and as you deliberate, I might also add for it, go too much further, but we set up a methodology for how we're going to approach this. One being the 4 community forums. Another was we asked the community, River City, Pasquotank County Community Relations Committee to help us, and the chair, Dr. Hunsberger, where's Dr. Hunsberger? Here. Right here. The chair of that, and the other members, all the members of that committee here were very helpful, very dedicated. They came to our planning sessions, and so that we wanted to make sure that we had some kind of process in finding out what the people thought, and basically we were pleased by the comments that were made by the people that attended. I think maybe we might have 40 or 50, we might have 15 or 20, it just varied the number of people that came to the forums. And with the handout I just gave you, this is as part of our methodology, we wanted to know what is the minority representation of the governing bodies in the Albemarle area. And so we took 10 counties and made a lot of phone calls and checked the internet a lot, and we found that in Pasquotank County, the percent population that are minority is 38%. We have a total of 7 commissioners, 6 of those are here today. Mr. Griffin is out of town and could not be with us. And we have 1 minority that is sitting next to me here, which means that 15% of the 7 are minorities. And what we wanted to do was develop some kind of plan where we would have more minority representation than we have now. We also, if you look on the second page, we look at all of the school boards in the area, the same counties, and we found that a little bit better minority representation on school boards than there is commissioner boards. And there's probably a lot of reasons for that, but at any rate, now, for the first time in history that I know, since I served on a school board here for 12 years, we now have 4 minorities and 3 Caucasians on the school board. And that hasn't caused any problems. In fact, of note is that recently there was a minority individual that ran for school board, and he got, in addition to voting for himself, he got 2 white votes. The minority person that was on the school board, in addition to, no, he got, I'm sorry, he got 2 minority votes and 1 white vote. And the person that was a minority on the school board got the majority of the Caucasians that were voting, for whatever that means. But I do, in conclusion, and I'm going to turn the table over to Mr. Perry here in a second, but in conclusion, let me just make one comment. And this is a short story, I'm not going to go on with it, but there were 2 young boys, teenagers, with their hats on sideways, with their skateboards in the schoolyard parking lot. And this car drives up, and a person gets out and approaches the doors of the building and takes a key out like this, and the 2 teenagers went over and said, "You must be a teacher." And he said, he/she said, "Why do you say that?" "Because you got the key that opens the door." Now, they didn't know what a profound statement they were making, but I would say to you folks, you had the key in Raleigh to open a lot of doors for the benefits of the counties that you represent. And we're asking you to give a lot of heartfelt thought with the request of the majority of the county commissioners, Pasquotank County Commissioners, which is to put forward a bill without a referendum. You have the key for progress in this county. You have the key for unity in this county. So at that, I'm going to let Mr. Perry.
Wait a minute. No, I'm going to let the commissioners at the end, if you have time, make comments.
Okay.
Because I respect, because these gentlemen and ladies got to get out of here
Okay.
at 3 o'clock. So at this time, I had mentioned earlier that I will now allow 2 speakers for the 421 come forward now. I already heard from, I think, Dr. Brown wanted to speak, and I think you said you had Don McKay, or somebody might come up and speak.
So Don, would you want to go first?
No, I prefer to have you. You're a better speaker.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good. Thank you. The only one speaking. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
My name is Hezekiah Brown, and I am semi-retired. I was fortunate enough to work for 15 years before I did my second retirement. I have been an elected official and have worked at every level of government, federal, state, city, county, and town. Involved in national, state, and local politics for over 40 years. I continue to work as an arbitrator, mediator, and consultant. And I am 75 and a half years young. I always tell me when you get past 75, you're supposed to take credit for every month, so 75 and a half. I lived in Pasquotank County for a little over 10 years. And so I want to really thank the three of you, along with the commissioners, for coming here today and coming to listen. You know, when I first moved here 10 years ago, there was a statement made to me, and it was a statement in the Daily Advance that elected officials did not come to Pasquotank County because we are a rural area, and our vote somewhat didn't count. Now, I first came and read it in the newspaper, and I was astonished at that. So I want to again thank you guys for proving that those folks was wrong by your appearance here today. And I should say to you that we're not here to embarrass you. We're not here to call you liars. You're in our community, and we're going to demand that you get respect for being an elected official. I know that elected officials are not an easy job, because sometimes it's very difficult to determine whether you're doing right, whether you're doing wrong, or who. But I know how difficult it is because I've been there. Now, I would like for this to happen. Everyone in this room, and trust me, we're not going to rob you. I want everyone in this room to close your eyes. And if I can see the white of your eyes, I can't go on. Close your eyes. What I'd like you to do is exchange position with the other races in the country. If you're Caucasian, I'd like to see if you can just for a moment step in the hands, in the shoes of an African American. If you're an African American, I'd like for you to see if you can step in the shoes of the Caucasian community and also as an elected official. It's a dual situation I'm asking you to do. I'll just give you 2 or 3 or 5 seconds to just try to get in that position. And I know it's difficult. But anyway, I'm asking you to do that for the rest of my presentation. Are you there? All right. You can open your eyes now. And don't forget who you are now. Okay. I should say to you, in order to resolve difficult problems, individuals must be willing to walk in other person's shoes. They must do some self-examination. How do I approach difficult problems? Am I fair and objective in my assessment of the problem facing me? Am I operating from preconceived thoughts and ideas? Do I make decisions on cliches such as, those who have the goal make the rule? If it's not broken, don't fix it. Or do I operate on facts and evidence? One must be capable of exchanging position with the other party, not just changing seats, but actually making that transition to try to see issues from the other party's point of view. If you're in conflict with or disagreement, those that you have to in conflict with. So what you have to do is develop good listening skills. And I know that everybody thinks they have good listening skills, but some people don't listen with their heart. They listen with the ears and they don't hear. I'm asking that all of you, including our local county commissioners, to listen with a feeling. Listen with compassion and feeling for others that's not like you. Listen with forgiveness, but more than that, listen for facts.
Mr. Brown, I'm gonna have to stop you, sir.
Well, I just got two more, just a little bit. All right, Jeff, I think that it's good that these folks came. I think it's good that they came, and I think they should hear us. So I don't mean to be any way disrespectful to you, but I'm almost there.
Okay.
All right. Listen for possible solutions to resolve issues. I say that to say that if we all are serious about resolving issues, those procedures that I outlined carried out, if people follow those procedures, you could solve almost any problem. Family, community, church, or in the legislature. Now turn to the issue of today regarding the 421 plan. In fact, we said in all of those meetings that we don't care what plan it is, as long as the objective is met, and that is to find and put another minority, get one elected, give them the opportunity to be elected to the county commissioners. 4-2 plan, nobody's in love with it. 2-2-1 plan, no one's in love with it. But that's what we petitioned the county commissioners to do. I somewhat differ with the, I'm finishing. I just want to somewhat differ with some of the numbers here. And I think Keith was saying to me a little bit that some of the things that's put on the board is not true. So it's going to be some time, Mr. Commissioner, that we have to get to these things. But I just want to say that this governance committee that was appointed by the board traveled throughout Pasquotank County, all 4 sides, north, east, south, and west, and said to, and we heard from everybody. And you know what? The vast majority, and for the visitors, overwhelming majority of folks who was there was in favor of giving a minority the opportunity, not a seat, the opportunity to serve on the or be elected. That was the whole thing. And this was what? Now, when we talk about a referendum, we already had one. That was a referendum because people who were in favor of this, they showed up. Some folks did not show up. So if they did not show up, they voted for it. That's how we work in this system. But, so I say to you, Mr. And thank you for bearing with me. At the conclusion of the town meetings, here's what evidence showed, and I think that's important. Evidence showed that there were an insignificant number of residents who voted, who voiced opinion to even the 221 plan, which the board turned around. Evidence showed that all residents had an opportunity to come out and voice their opinion. Evidence showed that the vast majority of individuals who appeared at all 4 meetings were in favor of the county commission development plan that would be inclusive of all minorities on the county commission board. Evidence showed that some county commissioners ignored the report of the governance committee and voted down the 221 plan. Evidence showed that going around the county and actually getting input from the community was an exercise in futility. Evidence showed that this idea of a referendum was never presented until long after the county commission voted for the 421 plan by a 4-3 vote. Evidence showed that the 4 meetings held around the county, which was supported by the Board of Commissioners, was a referendum. Facts are, referendum was implemented when the governance committee held those hearings in 4 corners of the community. Facts are, if a public referendum is held, it will cause irreparable damage to the community in regards to race relations. Facts are, individuals will not be campaigning on issues that are important to the community. They're going to be campaigning on race, and that's the most divisive thing that can happen in the world. If I have to go out there and campaign because I believe I'm right as an African American, and the Caucasian go out and campaign because they believe right as a Caucasian, do you know what's going to happen to this community? Irreparable damage. Facts are that we will have some commissioners campaigning against people because if you believe that what you're saying is right, you have to go out and campaign too. Facts are that the Commissioner Cephas Perry, the lone minority on this board, the lone minority, and that's one of the things I think that we ought to look at. Had he not been on here as a commissioner and spoke out, this probably never would have been an issue. So you've got to have that kind of representation. And I think it's important that we realize that and we prevail upon you. And we believe that the county commissioners have somewhat put you in a difficult position. If they came in and say that we have 7 commissioners who agree and that we want you to go out and put this legislation, but they have asked you to come here. And we here are not together yet on what should happen here. Mr. Chairman, I apologize. Thank you very much.
That's okay, you used up the second speaker's time, so now we move into,
Mr. Chairman, let me say this. We need, if you asked it too, and if I took too much time, but I think you owe it to Mr. Don just to say, if he's not going to be wrong, he's short-winded, I guarantee you. Please let him speak.
I didn't state at the time I'm not going to change.
But you didn't say that. If you had said that.
I said to.
But if you had said that, you would do that, I would have shocked. Because I think you need to hear from someone else other than me. This is not a black issue. This is an issue that has to do with the entire community. Now, we wasting time now. Could you let us speak for 2 seconds, 2 minutes?
Now, somebody that is against 5 minutes can come up. 2 speakers. If If you go over 5 minutes, you'll use the second speaker's time.
My name is George Haig, and I'd like to thank Senator Cook and Representative Steinburg for all they're doing in Raleigh. Republican members' leadership has moved this state forward, and we appreciate it. And redistricting, I look at it, here's one way to look at it. If you had 4 Republicans and voted